Barnacle Boy, good friend of the program, in Waller, Texas, he said, can you rank the top jobs in the nation if you assumed every job is open, similar to how you rank the programs? Very difficult task here. I know which programs are my top programs, but which jobs, if they were all open, would be my top jobs? So I've said for a long time that I thought if Texas had its you-know-what together, Texas is the top job in college football. I think Texas has its you-know-what together right now. So I think Texas is the top job in college football. Everything I could ever need to win is there. Every resource is there in abundance. Now, there will be detractors who come in from in the corner and they'll say, well, if it's all there, then how come Texas hasn't won? Well, maybe it wasn't always there the way it needed to be. Maybe the alignment wasn't always there. But I have reason to believe they're well aligned. I have reason to believe, therefore, if I'm the right guy, if I'm the best coach in America and I get to pick where I go, nothing's standing in my way there. The competition's still going to be stiff, but I don't have any resource that someone else has better than me. I've got access to premier talent. Facilities are great. The NIL game is top-notch. It's Texas. And contrary to popular belief on this show, because they are also the number one most hated team in America, not by us, but by everyone else. I've got everything I need there. So, Texas won. Now, I've got Georgia number 2. Georgia, I had number 1 for a long time because of the aforementioned issues at Texas. Georgia's always been a gold mine because of the same reasons there. Everything you've ever needed to win has been at Georgia. I thought for a long time growing up in Georgia that Georgia did not realize this. Georgia let very good be the enemy of them being great. Here was the problem. When I was growing up in Georgia, it had been a long time since anyone saw them compete for a national championship and win one. So they didn't really know what excellence looked like. I think Saban did them a favor. I think Urban Meyer did them a favor because they came in and Mark Richt is an angel amongst us. Mark Richt was one of the best coaches in the country. Probably wasn't ever going to make Georgia fully elite, though. Therefore, probably wasn't ever going to kick that hornet's nest. It was always a hornet's nest. It just needed the Kirby Smart to come in the door and kick it. Well, Urban Meyer showed them that if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it at Florida. Saban showed him if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it at Alabama. So then Saban did it with Kirby at Alabama, and then Georgia said, well, we'll go take Kirby since he's one of our own anyway. And Kirby walked in, and the first thing Kirby did is said, you think good enough is enough. It's not. I know. I just came from the place you want to basically mirror. And I know how to do it, but you got to say yes to this, and that. And Georgia finally did, which proved the entire time. For the right guy, Georgia was one of, if not the top jobs in the country. I would put Ohio State way, way up on this list. Hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, make sure you do. It's free. It doesn't obligate you or sign you up for anything. It just helps us keep the channel free. All right, back to the show. I would say Ohio State is the best job in the Big Ten, only because Ohio State has, for a long time, been the place that blends it all. Now, you could argue that in recent years, some other programs have started to get on the same wavelength, but for quite a while now, Ohio State has mixed the Big Ten sort of prestige angle with the SEC rabid nature, win at all cost kind of angles, and they've meshed those two concepts, which seem like oil and water, but they're really not. I think Urban Meyer, he's mentioned twice on the show now, had a whole lot to do with that. Urban Meyer was, for the Ohio State job, I think the same thing that Kirby was for the Georgia job. He kind of went there, and it was like the lawnmower, and he really just pulled the cord harder than anyone else ever had immunity. And so I'd say Ohio State is now fully the vision of what it always could have been. It was always a top program, but I think there was this extra gear that Urban showed them they could kick it into. Bama's here. I was talking to producer Jesse when we were accumulating the list, and I said, why wouldn't Bama be up there? I found my own subconscious trying to do a lot of what I think maybe yours is trying to do. You kind of try to find a reason for Bama not to be there. It's still elite. Everything about the Alabama job is still elite. And if we're headed towards an era of revenue sharing, you're parked there in the SEC. You got the best tradition and history of any program in America, SEC and beyond. And while you may say that doesn't matter, I'm going to tell you yes, it absolutely does matter because a generation of kids is coming out of high school that grew up on Nick Saban's Alabama. So if Kalen DeBoer sells them on the idea that he's going to be a winner there as well, or if the job's open and I'm the best in the country and I'm looking at the limitless amounts of resources there, and then I get to trade, the head coach there, gets to trade on the brand of Alabama, there's great alignment there. That's why basketball is so good there as well. A lot of these places in the South actually have gotten their act together with basketball. So Alabama's there, the tradition, the pageantry, rabid fan base. No one's saying no to you when it comes to football-related issues there. So I'm taking Alabama. LSU has always been way up there on this list. Think about how many head coaches have come through LSU this millennium and haven't won a national championship. One, and it's the current head coach there. Because Saban did it, and then Les Miles did it, and then Ed Orgeron did it. All these dudes won national championships. Brian Kelly remains to be seen because the final chapters of his career haven't been written, and we don't know how many chapters there are left. But everyone, up until Brian Kelly, in many of your lifetimes, if you're of my younger crowd, has won a national title there. Why? Because it's hard to do, but very possible to do. And if you get to tap into Louisiana, as Nick Saban was probably the first to really show America, there is no better talent pool to tap into than the Louisiana athlete. If you live in Boise, Idaho, Reno, Nevada, Albuquerque, New Mexico, thank you for watching the show or listening to the show. Unless you've traveled, you have no clue what I'm talking about. There is a different culture, lifestyle, vibe, pride about growing up in the state of Louisiana and playing for Louisiana State University. Everybody thinks they have that. Some of you do, some of you don't. They've got it. They've got it in Louisiana. It used to be that guys grew up in Louisiana and they said, yeah, but I'm going to have to go to Florida or I'm going to have to go to Texas or Alabama. And then when it became in vogue to be able to stay there and compete for a national title, that became one of the premier jobs in college football. The only questions along the way, periodically, that you will have ever had about LSU is the alignment there. And that's not always easy to see on the surface. So LSU's there. I think Oregon's there, which is just insane to say because all these other places are in huge population centers, and Oregon's clear out on the West Coast, but yet they've shown what we lack in geographical advantage, we're going to make up for in the fact that we will not be denied talent. So you can either look at that and say, shame on them, and then post the money bag emojis on Twitter, or you can realize, oh, that's all fully legal now. So why make fun of it? Why not embrace it? They do. And then you've got one of the most unique, great game day settings in all of college football, great color scheme, great branding. The whole Nike thing works to your advantage. There's a duck that rides a motorcycle around. The job at Oregon, though, has elevated. Dan Lanning has something to do with it, but Dan Lanning's also so blessed to have come along in the perfect moment in the history of college football to be the head coach at Oregon. So, right place, right time there. So those are 6 of them. I know I left many off. That's non-scientific. That's just what came in my mind today.